What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of Ben on Sports. I hope everybody enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed the NFL games on Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed Feast Week. There was a lot of great sports going on. And we are back from the holiday weekend with another episode of weekly NFL Weekly Predictions. We are already on week 14. 5 weeks left in the season, guys. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We still have some bye weeks going on. So for some teams, it's really only 4 weeks. But the playoff picture's really starting to line up. We'll have, for the first time on the series, we'll be looking at that. But yes, we are back with another NFL Weekly Predictions episode. So without further ado, let's review Week 13 before getting into Week 14 and the rest of the fun stuff. First Thanksgiving game, Lions looked like they were going to boat race the Bears early at home, and then the Bears had a great second half. And then possibly the worst coaching I've ever seen in my life. I think that some of it, I don't know how you don't take the timeout. Most of that blame is on Eberflus. He's not in the building anymore. I do think Caleb Williams, as the quarterback, needs to have a little bit more sense to him, a little bit more poise in that situation. I think if you're Caleb Williams, even if you don't call a timeout, I think you need to get that ball snapped. I would say 70 to 80% Eberflus, the rest on Caleb Williams. They had a chance to tie and send it into overtime, and the Bears keep finding a way to lose close games, it seems. Meanwhile, the Lions, man, their defense keeps taking injury after injury, and that's certainly worrisome. Good news for them is they're still 11-1, and they have a cushion on that 1 seed, kind of. I guess not really, because the Eagles are only 1 game behind them. So they don't have a cushion. I apologize. But Lions are still looking good. We're starting to get worried about that defense. I feel like the whole starting defense is on IR right now. Lions are going to have to figure that out. And yeah, I mean, they almost gave up a comeback at home with Thanksgiving. They didn't. Who did I pick to win this game? I did pick the Lions. Moving on, the Cowboys and the Giants, and what was the toilet bowl game of the week. And the Cowboys pick up a home win, and all of a sudden they think they have a chance to playoffs. I don't know if I buy into that yet. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. They have some tough games left on their schedule, some tougher games, I should say. But they're 2-5-7. Cooper Rush looks like he's getting more and more comfortable being starting the games as the backup quarterback. That could be a big boost for them. And if you're the Giants, I think you're just ready to see if you can get the number 1 overall pick. You're ready for the season to end because your guy, I don't know. The Giants are just kind of a mess right now. They have been a mess for the last 5 years. I'll be interested to see if they keep Brian Daboll or not. And I still maintain, I don't know why anybody bought the Giants that Daboll's first year when they went 10-6. The red flags were everywhere that wasn't real. And didn't take very long for that one to come true. So Dallas picking up the home win on Thanksgiving. I did pick the Cowboys to win. Green Bay and Miami, and the cold weather narrative continues. Green Bay, I think, won this game at the line of scrimmage. They dominated Miami's offensive line. They dominated Miami's defensive line. Jordan Love didn't have to do a whole lot. He did still have a pretty decent game. Miami, Tua showed up. I mean, I don't think he necessarily stat padded. I know I saw that going around on social media. I mean, I would say most of his damage was done when the game was still at a winnable point. I mean, was he stat padding when? I mean, our guys stat padding when they're down late in the fourth quarter. They trying to win a game. Like, I hate that narrative. Tua's not the only quarterback that does it. Joe Burrow's been down a couple of times this season in a seemingly over game. Gets a whole bunch of yards, gets a touchdown. Nobody says anything. It happened to Lamar Jackson and the Eagles this week. So I mean, I don't think that's fair. And I will say, the Packers and the Dolphins are both good teams when completely healthy, but I think you saw the difference in why certain teams have success in cold weather, and it's because of the aforementioned, the Packers dominated the line of scrimmage. You have to own the line of scrimmage in bad weather. You really have to own the line of scrimmage to be a successful football team, and the Dolphins were not able to do that. I will say, I don't think this game was as lopsided, however you want to say, as the score shows. maybe McDaniel didn't have some great play calling, but I mean, the yardage for this game, last time I checked, was within 20 yards. Miami had more first downs. Miami had more time of possession. It was really one critical turnover. And I mean, you thought Miami to start the game, oh, they got a 3-and-out, they're getting the ball back, and then the fumble, and then Miami's down 14-0 in a blink of an eye. I think that's really the large reason why they won, because after that they were point chasing the rest of the game after that. But that instant 14-0 deficit, I think, is what makes this game look more of a blowout than it actually was. Because I think if you sit back and watch, Miami did have that one drive where they made it down to the 1 yard line, and instead of trying to run the ball in, I guess because you're getting dominated at the line of scrimmage, they run two questionable pass plays. One ends in a sack. I mean, just one more touchdown in this game is one possession, and it's just a whole lot of weird stuff. I think these teams are actually very, very similar on terms of their ability, and I will stand by that. I don't think this game was 13 points, but that's what happens when you turn the ball over. That's what happens when you get dominated at the line of scrimmage. And I don't want to say this loss takes Miami out, because I think if they win out, they make the playoffs. But winning 5 games in a row in the NFL is not an easy thing to do. Miami, Tua is going to have to keep on playing lights out. They're going to have to figure out how to get stronger in the trenches, regardless of the situation they're in. Even if it means maybe punting the rest of the year and trying to use some draft picks, use some free agency. I think they need to get stronger, stopping the run, and they need to be able to run the ball better in the cold. And I've been talking about this game too long, so I'm going to move on. I did pick the Packers to win. The Chiefs and the Raiders. Boy, the Chiefs have me speechless. I don't know if they made a deal with the devil. I don't know what happened. The fact they were able to win that game after that fumble is incredible. I feel like the Chiefs have 5 or 6 games that they just should not have won this season that they have won. And all of them they're winning all their games with controversy. I think they have the worst point differential for any team that has started 12-1 in NFL history. I do think if they see a team like the Bills in the playoffs, it might be game over for them. The Chiefs, man, they're finding ways to win. This is a game the Raiders should have won. I don't know what the Chiefs are doing. I don't know how they keep on winning like this. I don't know how they keep doing it, but they keep doing it. They are still the 1 seed somehow. The Raiders, I mean, are they better with Aiden O'Connell? Maybe. The Raiders are definitely not giving up. And Brock Bowers looks like he might already be the best tight end in the entire league. What a stud Brock Bowers is. And honestly, if you're a Raiders fan, the only reason why you have to tune in every week is Brock Bowers, I would say. So, anyway, moving on, I did pick the Chiefs to win that game. I was hoping that it would be a game where their offense got right, but it did not. So, Falcons and Chargers, and wow, this was a disaster of a game for the Falcons. They are now 6-6, tied with the Buccaneers. Thankfully, they've won both head-to-head games. But the Falcons had a chance maybe to make a run at the 3 seed, or stay close to the Eagles for the 2 seed. They were 6-4, only 2 games back, and they've lost 2 games in a row to teams that they should be able to beat. They're kind of similar. But when thinking about this game, it definitely starts with Kirk Cousins. 3 interceptions, including a pick 6. There's your difference in the game. Threw one in the end zone. The Falcons had every chance to win this game, and it was just turnovers, I think, cost them. Chargers find a way to get enough stops, find a way to force turnovers, and get a big rebound game. This is a big rebound game for the Chargers. They lose this one, and they would have been on a 2-game losing streak and starting to fall back towards the field. They have a good cushion on the wild card, but you don't want to lose your whole cushion before the end of the season. At least not this quickly. So good for the Chargers, especially the Chargers defense, for finding a way to win this one. If you're the Falcons, that's a game at home you have to win, especially when you're thinking about the playoffs. And now the Falcons are in a very, very real situation where if they struggle down the stretch, the Buccaneers could pass them and they could be out of the playoffs altogether. Who did I pick to win this game? I did pick the Chargers just because they were playing better coming into the game. Bengals and Steelers, and I don't. I feel bad for the Bengals fans this year. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are on an all-time run. Maybe it's because they're always losing, so they have to keep passing the ball. But it feels like the Bengals are able to score with just about anybody. That's not their problem. Their problem is getting stops. I mean, I'm not saying the Steelers' offense is bad, but it ain't great. I don't think it's not top 10 in the NFL. And they dropped 44 on the Bengals. Bengals need to find a defense if they want to compete. They're obviously out of it this year. They have some contract stuff to work out, but for the Bengals to win with Joe Burrow, they need to figure out their defense because you can't be giving up 44 points, especially to an offense that I don't think is that good. Maybe just average. The offense did their job. The defense did not do their job. Anytime you score 38 points, you should win an NFL game. And the Bengals find a way to lose one again. So it's just feel bad for. I really do feel bad for Bengals fans and the situation their team is in. But I thought the Bengals were going to be able to. I believe last week's episode I said the Bengals find a way to get enough stops to win this game in a somewhat high scoring game. It was definitely high scoring, but the Bengals didn't find enough stops, and the Steelers are still third in the AFC somehow. I don't know if I buy them as 9-3 good, but when you have a good coach like Tomlin and you find ways to win games that maybe you shouldn't, you're at 9-3. So props to the Steelers. I'm not worried about their defense. The Bengals have such a good offense and have been able to, like I said, Burrow and Chase and Higgins, those guys are clicking really well. So I'm not too worried about them, but whew, I didn't think they'd be giving up 38 points just because of how solid they've been all year. But who did I pick to win? This is the first game wrong of the week. I thought I picked the Bengals to win. They lost. The Vikings and the Cardinals, and let me get into the game and then I'll say Vikings win another close game. The defense shows up. If you're the Cardinals, I can tell you exactly where you lost this game. 7 points from touchdowns, 15 from field goals. You want to win games. You can't kick that many field goals, especially on the road. That's 5 field goals. You just need one more touchdown drive and you win this game. Vikings with an impressive come from behind win against a team that I do think is still pretty good. Vikings, in the end, found enough ways to win. I think the defense is still the strength of the Vikings team. Vikings stay right behind the Lions, not letting the Lions get anywhere for the division lead. Cardinals, I mean, they're still in the division race. I think actually a win this week would put them back in first. I'm not positive. I know they'd had the same record, but Cardinals are still in the playoff hunt too. And I think for the Cardinals, they're going to go as their defense goes. I think their offense can score enough pretty regularly. And the offense has been a little bit up and down, but for the Cardinals, I think the season comes down to consistency. How consistent can their offense be? How consistent can their defense be? Because when they are playing at their best, to the best of their abilities, they're really, really good. But they haven't done that enough this year. So, who did I pick to win? I did pick the Vikings. I apologize last week. If you listened to the episode, you heard me say I'm picking the Vikings because I trust them to be a little bit more consistent than the Cardinals. On the end page where I gave you the summary, there was a typo where I had the Cardinals winning, but I actually picked the Vikings. So just if you realize that, I want to get out in front of that. But I did pick the Vikings. If you go back and listen, you will hear me say it. Oh boy. The Patriots and the Colts. Man, this was a fun game. Drake May looks stellar. Drake May has the worst situation of any rookie quarterback in the NFL, and he's performing about as well as I think he can in the situation. He almost led the Patriots to a win. The Patriots had the lead, and then the Colts score with 15 seconds left, go for 2 and get it to win the game by 1. Man, imagine if New England won that with the longest field goal in NFL history. That would have been pretty cool. This is what I mean. I don't buy the Colts as a playoff team. I know they're still technically in the playoff race. But I don't know if they're actually good or not. A lot of wins against not very good teams. I guess you can only play your schedule, but granted, when you play 4 games combined against the Jaguars and the Titans, not that they've played all of them yet, that usually helps your record. The Patriots, I think, want to play spoiler a little bit. They tried to play spoiler here. Almost did. It's unfortunate. I really, really liked the Patriots to win this game because the defense is pretty good, and Drake May has the offense playing better than they have been, good enough to win games. and I think the Patriots are going to be able to play spoiler. I picked them to play spoiler here. Unfortunately, they did not. Man, it would have been big for the big. I try and pick upsets every week. Nobody likes somebody that picks favorites all the time, so I try and key in on some upsets. This is one of them. Patriots arguably should have won the game. They did not. The Colts win to get to 6-7, right behind the Broncos in the AFC playoff picture, and keep their season alive. Next game, the Jets and the Seahawks. Did I see stats floating around Twitter that said this was the biggest blown lead of Aaron Rodgers' career? I think I did. And if so, wow. They were up big on the Seahawks early, and then the Seahawks come storming back, win this game by 5 points. Seahawks needed a win. They stay in first place in their division, which is why that win is so important. The Jets, at this point, do you give up on Aaron Rodgers? Do you at least shut him down and try and find somebody else? I don't know, but I think you have to consider it. Not a good game from the Jets. This season has been super underwhelming. If only somebody was here in week 1 to tell you that. Oh, wait, I was. This Jets team had fraud written all over it. I don't know why we believe in that, why everybody has fallen for them the last 2 years. The Jets are not very good. They've only won 3 games this year, 3-8, 3-9. Anyway, Jets not very good. They play everybody close for the most part. They just can't figure out a way to win the game. That defense, I don't think, is getting any better, especially with Robert Saleh gone after he got fired. So I think they're going to have some trouble stopping people the rest of the year. And the offense has been very up and down. And again, the Seahawks, they fought through some injuries this season. The defense is getting better. They fought through the hard part of their schedule, and now they're in this position where they could very realistically win their division and host a playoff game this year. And it's never easy to play in Seattle in the playoffs. Who did I pick? I did pick the Seahawks. Commanders looking to rebound game against a loss to the Cowboys, and an ugly loss, at least in the way they lost it, against the Titans at home. And they were up 28-0 pretty quickly, coasted the rest of the way. They whooped up on a bad team, which is kind of what you're supposed to do. They finally got the monkey off their back. 2-game losing streak, 3-game losing streak, doesn't matter. They're back in the win column at 8-5, firmly in the wild card discussion in the NFC. Great win to pick up. The Titans, well, they're the Titans. What else can you really say about it? Every once in a while, a couple games a season, they've beaten teams, they've played teams close, but they're still out talented. So as long as you come into a game prepared for them, you're probably going to have a good chance to win. Who did I pick? I did pick the Commanders. I hope Trevor Lawrence is okay. That's the first thing that comes to mind in this game. That was a late hit. It was pretty gross. I don't really buy that Trevor Lawrence slid too late. I know, but it's always hard to tell going full speed, and I understand that. It's still not a great look. And if you're the Jaguars, Lawrence has got to be out the rest of the year, even if he's able to come back. It doesn't make sense to, because your team has the worst record in the NFL. Why not just suck for a little bit, get a better draft pick, right? The Texans, on the other hand, win this game by 3, so they've played the Jaguars twice, beat them twice by a combined 6 points. The Texans, this is not a sexy game to win, but I guess wins don't have to be sexy. I'm starting to get worried about the Texans. I think if they were in any other division in the AFC, they would be lucky. They would be fighting for a wild card spot right now, but they're in the South, which historically has been the worst conference over the last decade, realistically 2 decades in the AFC. I don't know, guys. It's like I don't have a lot to say about this game. Mac Jones almost led a comeback on the Texans. The Texans are supposed to be this really good playoff team. CJ Stroud has just been kind of fine and average this year. He hasn't been CJ Stroud last year, which was to be expected. To do what he did in his rookie year is really incredible. It's even harder to follow it up. But the Texans defense, I'm starting to get a little bit worried about. They're kind of starting to be a little bit leaky. Not really, but kind of. I don't know how to read the Texans. They are starting to concern me. But the important thing is that they're still leading their division. They still have a winning record, and they're still the 4th seed in the playoffs right now. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Texans. These Saints and Rams, a battle of two teams that are kind of on the outside looking in, but both coming into this game probably still felt like they had a shot. And it is a game that the Los Angeles Rams won. It was a close game. The Saints had a chance. They were driving late in the game, fell a little bit short. This game was pretty close throughout. But like I said, Rams came away with the win, and that's really important because they had a better record coming in. This probably ends the Saints season in all likelihood. It keeps the Ram in the divisional race, keeps the Rams in the wild card race after that 1-3 start. They're trying to do the incredible and find a way to get into the playoffs. I do think their offense needs to be, while their defense has been getting significantly better, through as the season is going on, I do think their offense needs to be a little bit more consistent. It has the tools. I mean, you have Stafford, you have Williams, you have Kupp, you have Nacua. Those four alone should give you a pretty good offense, a pretty consistent offense. And I need to see it for the Rams to take them as a serious threat. I don't know if it's going to happen this week for them, but going forward, that's definitely something I'm going to be looking at. And if you're the Saints, you lost your Swiss Army knife in Taysom Hill. It'll be interesting to see if he can come back. He's been fun for the Saints. Always has some big games every year for him, but don't think they're going to have him the rest of the year. I'll be interested to see how the Saints approach the rest of this year. Do they go for the draft pick, or do they go at their 0.01% chance of the playoffs? Who did I pick? I picked the Saints. This was another spot where I really liked the underdog, the small underdog, and it was another spot where I was wrong. So the the three underdog matchups I picked, the Bengals over the Steelers, the Patriots over the Colts, and the Saints over the Rams, all three of them lost. All three of them lost narrowly, but all three of them lost. Oh, moving on. Panthers and Buccaneers. This one goes to overtime. Both teams had one chance in overtime to win it, and then the Buccaneers on their second possession kick a field goal to win it. What a crazy game. The Panthers, I'm telling you, they're trying to play spoiler. Bryce Young is playing much better. The defense is playing a little bit better. The Panthers, I wouldn't want to play them down the stretch because they're going to beat somebody. I firmly believe they're going to beat somebody. I just don't know who yet. Buccaneers pick up a win, and now they are tied in the win. They're tied with the Falcons. They have the same record as the Falcons. And what a big what a big development is that. I thought 2 weeks ago the Buccaneers were 4-6, the Falcons were 6-4, and in 2 weeks they're tied again. So Falcons need to wake up, or the Buccaneers are going to move past them, even if they do have the tiebreaker. All right. Not a whole lot else to say about this game. The Buccaneers have kind of been the same team all year. They can score a lot, but their defense is, in most games, has given up a lot. There has been some good performances. Keep in mind, the Buccaneers are the only team that has beaten the Lions. It was way back in week 2, but just keep that in mind. And it was in Detroit. So Buccaneers aren't scared of anybody. I definitely do think that's fair to say. But again, keep an eye out for this Panthers team. I haven't decided who, but I'm picking them to beat somebody before the end of the year because I think they're going to. Who did I pick? I did pick the Buccaneers. Ravens, Eagles. A lot of people were jumping on the Ravens. They thought this was the point where the Ravens were going to come out and show something. I'm surprised the city of Baltimore didn't blow up with these two teams' fan bases there. And I think the Eagles' quiet season, their quiet, successful season, is no longer quiet. This is by far their best win on the season. An impressive, I mean, I know they had that opening Friday night victory in Brazil over a good Packers team, a quite good Packers team. Now they have a win in Baltimore over Baltimore. This Eagles team looks like it could be really, really good, a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Saquon Barkley has made a world of difference there. Jalen Hurts doesn't even have to do a lot. I don't want to say he's game manager because that's unfair to him, but he's not playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league, but I think he's just trying to play smart football, and he doesn't have to be a top 5 quarterback in the league, especially when Saquon Barkley has games like he's had as of late. If you're the Ravens, you're starting to worry about Justin Tucker. The guy was the best kicker in the league for a decade. Everybody loves Justin Tucker. He still has the power and he still has the ball striking ability. It's the accuracy is waning a little bit, and you can't win games missing kicks. And if you're the Ravens, you don't want to give up on Justin Tucker because he's been the guy for 10 years. but you also can't have them keep missing kicks and hurting you, especially in big games like this. That's really the story for them. I do think their offense has been sputtering the last 2 weeks. I would say, well, definitely this week. I don't know if it was fair to say last week. The defense, honestly, holding the Eagles to 24 points is a pretty darn good defensive performance. Like I said, I think the main problem for the Ravens this game was their kicking game with one of the best kickers in NFL history, if not the best. So that's definitely a worrisome trait that's building this year. But the Eagles win a big game on the road, another big game from Saquon Barkley. A lot of people thought the Ravens were going to win this game. I was not one of them. I picked the Eagles to win in Baltimore. And while the Eagles could be good, they might be better than the Lions just because they're healthier. Moving on, the Sunday night football game, not a lot to say here. 49ers now have their first and second string running backs lost. I think Garendo is still going to be good. The 49ers defense does not feel like the 49ers defense from past years. The Bills are super hot right now. They're scoring a lot of points. The defense is playing well. They got their guy Milano back. The Bills might be the number one contender for the Super Bowl in the AFC, at least the way they're playing now. They have been beat twice by other teams currently in the playoffs, by the Ravens and Texans, but the Bills seem like they are much better than when they lost to those teams, and those other two teams seem like they're having trouble. It might be Bills out of the AFC. They might go to their first Super Bowl since the 90s. We'll see how stuff keeps shaking out, but the Bills are an absolute juggernaut right now, and there's very few teams that I think are on that level. But again, there's 5 weeks left to figure it out, right? So who knows what might happen. Maybe they peak too early. Maybe they're not done peaking yet. If you're the 49ers, the playoffs look really, really grim right now. They're still largely healthy. They're getting healthier. It might be too late. Other than the running back situation, they're getting healthier, I should say. So we'll see. Not a good game from the 49ers. They look like they weren't ready to play in the snow, in the cold in Buffalo as a California team. And they got crushed. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Bills. Last game of the week, the Broncos and the Browns, and I thought the Browns were going to do it. The AFC playoff picture was almost really, really fun this week, where it was almost, again, keyword almost, Colts almost lost, Broncos almost lost, Chargers almost lost, and if those teams would have lost, the AFC playoff picture would have been thrown into absolute chaos. They did not. Broncos scored 41 in what was probably their best offensive game of the season. Well, I guess the offense didn't score all those points, but this is their highest scoring game of the season. The Browns offense certainly looked better with Jameis Winston. Some people wonder, where would the Browns season be if they started Jameis Winston and not Deshaun Watson? However, this game is a microcosm of Jameis Winston's career. I put a tweet out about this, so if you're on Twitter, you probably saw it. But it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And sometimes you get it from game to game. Sometimes you get it in game. Winston threw for almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he also threw for 2 pick sixes, which was obviously the difference in this game. Without those pick sixes, the Browns win another game and upset the apple cart yet again. I mean, they beat the Steelers. They've beaten the Ravens since Jameis Winston took over. They almost beat the Broncos. That's 3 teams in the playoffs. Man, I don't think they're done. I think the Browns are still, they're like, we can't make the playoffs, but we sure want to keep other people from it. Jameis Winston's playing for his next contract. So I definitely will be interested to watch the Browns and see if they can continue this. Jameis Winston is always fun to watch just because of his up and down performances and because he's kind of an interesting guy. Who doesn't love listening to his pregame speeches? And the Broncos pick up a big win to keep the lead, keep their cushion, keep pace in the AFC playoff race. I want to say big game from the defense because they did score 2 touchdowns, but they also gave up 32 points. And then Bo Nix scoring 27 offensive points. That can't be understated either. The Broncos look primed to make the playoffs this year under Sean Payton with a rookie quarterback. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Broncos at home. Whew. 16 games. We haven't had a 16-game week in a while with all the bye weeks. As you can see here, we went 13-3. If I would have just picked all the favorites, maybe I would have been 16-0. Maybe I wouldn't have been. I don't actually know who was favorited, to be honest. Anyway, 13-3 this week. That's probably my best week of the season. 12-2 might be better than 13-3, but 13 wins is the most I've gotten in 1 week. I was so close to getting a couple more, but I digress. My overall record, 132-63. We made progress towards our goal of winning 70%. I want everybody in the comments, if you've been doing this, please put your record, put your weekly records. And you know what? Even if you haven't started, maybe do it from here on out and put your record every week into the comments. And we'll see where you are after 5 weeks. We can compare winning percentages, compare how we did down the stretch. I really am trying to hit that 70 record, but we're kind of stalling out around 2/3. Week 10 and week 11 were not very helpful in that sense. We're 67, 68%, just over 2/3 right now. So we'll see what happens. But please, comments. I want to hear from you guys about what your weekly records are, how you guys are doing predicting NFL games. I really am interested. I try and respond to all the comments. So please let me know. Let's move in and see the playoff picture, the current playoff picture in the AFC. 3 8-win teams in the wild card. You have the Colts and the Dolphins. I put the Bengals there because I wanted to include 3 teams, but the Bengals are really out of it. I mean, they're 3.5 games back. Is that math correct? 3.5 games back is correct. Of the Broncos, the Dolphins and Colts still have a chance. For the Dolphins to have a chance, they're going to have to win out. I don't think they can lose any more games because the Broncos still do have a semi-difficult schedule down the stretch. I guess in theory, if you're the Dolphins, you could still catch the Ravens. Mathematically, you could catch the Chargers too, but I think the schedule for the Chargers and Ravens is a little bit easier. I guess the Chargers and the Broncos still do have to play the Chiefs, and they still play each other. They still play the Chiefs. The Broncos actually play the Colts, which brings me to my next point. Colts beat the Broncos. They're 7-7. Broncos they're only 1 game back, and they'd have the tiebreaker. And outside of the Broncos, the Colts' schedule's kind of easy outside of that. So I think if any of these teams have an opportunity, it is the Colts. But at the same time, if the Colts lose to the Broncos, I think their season is over. The most likely scenario is that in the AFC, to me, is that these teams finish in the order you see them here, or not in the order, but the teams that are in the playoffs right now in the AFC are the ones that will stay in. I think that's the most likely scenario. I think the seeding will change a little bit, but I think those could very well be your 7 AFC playoff teams. And I really think the Colts and the Dolphins are the only one with a greater than 10% chance of crashing the party, but I wouldn't put it at 50% either, if that makes sense. Moving on to the NFC, they have a lot more records that are into the 9, 10, 11 win group, particularly out of the NFC North. You see there the Commanders finally got back in the win column. What's funny is the Commanders have a better record than 2 of the division leaders in the Seahawks and the Falcons. The Buccaneers, Cardinals, and Rams are all in the wild card race, but they're all still in their division races. All 3 of those teams could still win their divisions. Cardinals and Rams are both 6-6. The Seahawks are leading their division at 7-5. The Buccaneers at 6-6. Falcons lead their division at 6-6. So those 5 teams, those 2 division races will be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if those divisions can get anybody into the wild card race. The wild card race is going to be hard to break into because the Vikings and Packers have a nice cushion at 10-2 and 9-3. The Commanders are 8-5. Maybe you can get them there, but I think outside of the Eagles, I don't know if they play a good team the rest of the season. So Commanders, based off of schedule remaining, could get into the playoffs alone. Granted, they still have the Cowboys, and they already lost to the Cowboys once this year. So maybe the Commanders have a couple of losses in them still. We'll see. But yeah, sorry, Cowboys fans. I know you think you have a chance, but you're not in the top 10 standings. You'd have to leapfrog at least 4 teams, and that's going to be difficult. If you win next week, I'll see where you guys are. Okay, that's my deal with the Cowboys fans. All right, moving on. That's what your playoffs look like. Week 14 symbols, not going to go over them. They're the same as they have been. We will be using all of them this week, believe it or not. All right, so 13-game slate for Week 14. Thursday Night Football is a top 5 game of the week. The 9-3 Packers versus the 11-1 Lions in Detroit. Both of these teams, it's interesting to note, played Thanksgiving because they both played Thanksgiving. They're going to be on normal rest for this one. It is not going to be a short week of rest. They almost kind of got lucky in that sense. Their standalone Thursday night game is coming after they played on Thanksgiving, so both teams should be rested. The first Thursday night game sucks, but the second one doesn't, at least as bad. I think the Packers have been playing better. As like the Packers have beaten 2 playoff teams from last year, 2 teams that have had their struggles this year, but they handled both of them. And the Packers aren't going to be afraid of the physicality up front. The Lions are 11-1 and playing really, really well. I don't think they're going to go perfect the rest of the way and finish 16-1. I'm worried a little bit about Jared Goff. He's starting to go be a little bit more up and down than he has been at most other points since getting to Detroit. And actually, my hot take of the week, I think the Packers go into Detroit and win. I think the Packers are just super hot right now. Secondly, I think Detroit's defensive injuries are mounting, and I think that's going to make it harder for them to stop elite offenses. And I think the Packers have if not elite, darn near close to it. The Packers have a good offense. And like I said, the Lions just have so many injuries in the secondary. It's going to be, or not just the secondary, the entire defense really is. And I think that might be enough to get the Packers this win on the road, especially with Jordan Love healthy. That would make the NFC North real interesting because you'd have, assuming the Vikings win, you'd have the Vikings and Lions tied at 11-2, and then you'd have the Packers at 10-3 right behind them, and shows you how good this division is. But yes, I think regardless, this is going to be a really good game, whether it's high scoring, whether it's low scoring in physical football. It is in a dome, so I don't know if the elements are going to affect it too much in an NFC North game. But I do think this is going to be a really fun one to watch, regardless of what type of game it shapes up to be. I think it's going to be close the entire way. And I just think the Packers are a little bit hotter and they're healthier. And for those reasons, I think they're going to pull out a narrow victory in Detroit. I think this game is going to be so good. I'm going to give the Thursday night game my game of the week. I don't do it very frequently, but this actually feels like a good primetime game. So everybody settle in Thursday night and watch some dang football. All right, we have the Dolphins and the Jets. Dolphins looking to rebound. One more loss and their season is over. The Jet season is already over. Talks about maybe they need to shut down Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if they're going to do that this week or potentially even next week, but maybe down the last couple of games of the season. Oh boy, the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are the better team. They've certainly been playing better, but you can't count the Jets out. They just have a lot of talent on that roster, so it's hard to completely take them out of any game. I think regardless, this game is going to be closer than maybe some people are expecting. Tua Tagovailoa is undefeated against the Jets, so the Jets probably want to beat him for no other reason than that. The Jets and the Dolphins are also rivals, so the Jets would probably love to end the Dolphins season because a loss here does exactly that. However, because the Jets defense has been struggling without Salah, I think Miami scores enough points where it doesn't matter how their defense looks. The defense sometimes for Miami sometimes healthy, sometimes not, and I just think the Jets are starting to check out as a team on this season and thinking about next year. They would love to spoil it, but if they're going to spoil the Dolphins season, it's not going to be in Miami. I think it's going to be in New York because these teams still have to play again after this. And I'm going to pick Miami to win this one, potentially closer than people realize. The Vikings and the Falcons desperately need a win. They are on a 2-game losing streak. They need to rebound. And the Vikings need a win to keep pace, especially if the Packers win, which they very well could. That puts the Vikings tied for first place in their division. That would be a massive moment in their season. This one is a battle between that's not true, but I was about to say two division leaders. It could be a battle between two division leaders, but the Lions are in the Vikings division, and I've literally been talking about it the whole time, so I don't know why I tried to say that. Falcons, though, they need to do something. I'm a little bit worried. The Falcons' offense is kind of stalling out. I think the offense is really why the Falcons are struggling. Their defense did have a bad game against Denver, but largely I think the Falcons' defense has shown up this year. I think their offense is the problem. Do you try Michael Penix? Maybe. I don't think they're nearing that yet. I think Kirk Cousins is going to get the rest of this year minimum unless he really, really sucks. But because the Falcons' offense is struggling, and because the Vikings defense has been good and they're going to be at home, I think the Vikings will find a way to win this game. I just think that they stop the Falcons enough where they don't have to score a lot. And like I said, I really think this game is going to be won and lost when the Falcons offense and the Vikings defense is on the field. That's what I'm going to be looking for. This is going to be a top 5 game of the week. There was really kind of 3 or 4 obvious ones, and then a 5th one I didn't know where to go, but I think this one will be a pretty good game. Highly recommend you watch it in the early slate Sunday afternoon. Giants and Saints, two bad teams playing each other. I'd maybe the Giants could win this game. They're definitely looking at it like, oh, we're at home against a team that's not really gonna do it much the rest of the year. Maybe we can get a win and get to 3 wins. You know, you're never trying to lose. Those guys out, everybody on the field is a professional football player that wants to win games. That's what they're supposed to do. Giants definitely looking at this as an opportunity to do that at home. Even without Taysom Hill, I think the Saints can figure out a way to win this game. I do think they're better. Their defense is better. I think offensively they're better. Saints, I think, maybe a couple guys probably playing to stay on the team, a couple guys playing for their next contracts. And I think the Saints are going to try and win as many games as possible down the road. I don't think they're just going to tank and give up on the year. And I think this is a game that the Saints go into New York and win. Again, I think New York puts up a good fight and keeps it close. But I think the Saints are going to, in the end, come away with a win. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara the entire game. Not a lot to say about this one. I know I was just giving the Panthers a whole bunch of praise earlier on in the podcast. This is not a place I'm going to give them praise. I think the Eagles win this game at home, at the bank. And at the Link, my bad. The bank is Baltimore. At the Link. And I don't think it's really close. I think the Eagles have their way with the Panthers. We could see starters resting in the fourth quarter in this game. The Panthers are going to get somebody, but it's not going to be as a team. It's not going to be on the road against one of the best teams in the NFL that's going to be ready for them. Eagles win this one easily. Saquon's going to add to his MVP resume. Divisional battle that just happened a couple weeks ago where the Browns beat the Steelers in Cleveland. This game is not in Cleveland. It's not prime time. It's Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can't lose this game. If they want to win the division, they lose this game. They move to 9-4. Ravens are 8-5, and they still have to play the Ravens. Steelers are the better team. They're coming off of a big divisional win, and you know what? I think the Browns keep it close. I don't think the Browns are going to get blown out. I think it's going to be hard to blow out the Browns just the way they're playing. Just again, the absurdity that Jameis Winston the level of play Jameis Winston plays to is absurd. Equally as absurd as how bad he plays sometimes. I think that the Steelers win this game. I think it's going to be close. I don't think they're going to let the Browns sweep them on the year. That's good. That loss is going to be fresh in their mind. Again, this is going to be classical AFC North tough football. It's going to be good defense. It's going to be high intensity. The teams don't like each other. It's going to be let's try and run the football first. Let's try and be big and physical. And I think the Steelers are going to be able to do it a little bit more successfully. I think this could be low scoring. Maybe both teams hit the low 20s. Best case scenario, Steelers win a close classic and AFC North matchup. The Buccaneers and the Raiders, not a lot to say here. We'll go watch the game for Brock Bowers, I guess. Buccaneers are the better team. They're hot right now. The Raiders are not. The Raiders are trying to play spoiler, but I don't think this is the game they're going to play spoiler. I think it's a little bit close, maybe at first, but eventually I think the Buccaneers run away and put some separation on them. I think they score some points at home here, and the Raiders will lose yet another game, but they want to lose games, right? I mean, that keeps them in contention for the number 1 pick. There's a lot of 2-10 teams, 3-9, 3-10, right? A lot of teams in that area that are fighting for the 1 seed. Raiders are one of them. Losing this game would help out, and I think the Buccaneers are going to be able to win this game. I think the Falcons are losing, and I think the Buccaneers will be in first place in the division after this week. Yikes, an ugly game. Another one. The Titans and the Jaguars. Titans at home trying to win game number 4. Definitely an opportunity to do this against a struggling Jacksonville team. A Jacksonville team that will be without Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones didn't look horrible. Hasn't looked horrible. He hasn't looked good either. Tennessee is a pretty tough and physical team. I think that's going to continue. And I think that the Titans are going to win a close game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be kind of low scoring. And I think if the Jaguars had Trevor Lawrence, they win this game. They don't have Trevor Lawrence, so that doesn't matter. I think the Titans win this game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be tight. And it's going to be so ugly. I'm giving it the toilet bowl game of the week. Not really anything that's going to trump this. 3-9 versus 2-10. And it's not a pretty 3-9. It's not a pretty 2-10. Not that those can be pretty. Tennessee is going to get back into the win column here and win their second game in 3 weeks. Top 5 game of the week, divisional battle. Cardinals trying to get back to first place. Seattle trying to stay there and put some distance. Cardinals also need a rebound. They were another team that was leading the division at 6-4 and has since lost 2 games and lost their lead. Although one of them was to the Seahawks. This one is in Arizona. I think Arizona's starting to play. Arizona, I think they're due for a good game. They played pretty well last week against a really good Vikings team, with one of the best records in the NFL. Seahawks need to score a lot of points. Maybe not. I mean, Seattle's defense has been playing much better than it was early in the year. I still think they're going to have to score some points. I think the Cardinals are going to come into this one ready. And I think the Cardinals are going to win this game, successfully rebound. I think this game is going to be close the whole way. I think it's heading for like the mid-20s, maybe even the 30s. So definitely some points are going to be scored. Highly recommend you tune into this one. This one's in the late slate. So far we have a top 5 game Thursday night. We have a top 5 game Sunday afternoon. And we have a top 5 game in the Sunday 4 slate. So three different time frames, 3 different game of the weeks. Highly recommend you tune into this one. It's going to be a close divisional battle, and I think it's going to be one where Arizona wins it narrowly, probably a big play in the fourth quarter, and I think that Arizona will be in a tie with the Seahawks for first place, again, at 7-6. Moving on, the Rams and the Bills. The Rams, this was my last top 5 game of the week. I don't know if it's actually going to be that close. The Bills are playing so well, and they're going to be playing in good weather. LA is not a bad team, but I don't think they're definitely not on the same level as the Bills. Maybe Matthew Stafford gets hot. Honestly, the biggest question mark for me about the Bills is not their offense. It's not their rush defense. It's their secondary. And if there's anything that the Rams can exploit, assuming they can block long enough, which has sometimes not always been the case this year, will be Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the secondary against the Bills. So I think if the Rams are going to keep it close and win, it's going to have to be with a big day for Matthew Stafford. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. I still think the Rams are outmatched everywhere else. However, if the Rams win, they could be in a 3-way tie for first. Who knows? But they definitely keep pace in the wild card and the division with a win. And even if they lose, it's not the end of the world. They can still make it. I think the Bills are going to win this game. The Bills are trying to run down the Chiefs. And I mean, whenever the Chiefs' devil magic goes away, they will catch them, I think. But this is a game I think the Bills win by 10 to 14 points, potentially more, on the road in Los Angeles. Good weather and kind of an indoor stadium, even though it rains and the rain gets inside. I don't know what to do with that is. But yeah, Bills winning this game. And I don't think it's a complete and utter blowout, but it ain't going to be close either. 49ers trying to rebound. Yes, they're without their top 2 running backs, but I think Garendo is a serviceable enough running back for them to win games. He's looked good in the limited opportunities he's gotten. The defense is still kind of healthy. The big thing is, can you get Trent Williams back? Brock Purdy's still healthy. They still have some guys that they like at receiver. I know Ayuk isn't there, but they still have Jennings. They still have Deebo Samuel, who's having a bad year, and they still have George Kittle. The 49ers have enough pieces to still win games. I think if they lose this one, they're definitely out of playoff contention. If they win this one, they can put themselves right back in it. The Bears are desperately looking for a win. They have lost 6 games in a row now. The Bears defense has been playing really well, and the 49ers offense has not been playing well. And I really, really want to pick the Bears here, but I'm not. I think the 49ers need the win more. I think they desperately want the win, and I think that they have a little bit more talent and experience on their team. And I think the 49ers are going to find a way to win a close game. It could be a little bit ugly. This could turn into a defensive war, but maybe the 49ers offense gets it going and figures it out. I think the 49ers rebound in a really close game. Would not shock me at all if the Bears find a way to win this one. Another top 5 game of the week. The Chiefs at home against the Chargers. And oh boy, Chargers win this. There is only one game of separation between these teams for first place in their division. Chargers very well could win this one the way the Chiefs have been playing recently, but Patrick Mahomes dominates the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes dominates his division. And the loss here, I don't think it's awful for the Chargers, but it certainly isn't good either, especially with how many teams are on their heels for both positioning in the playoffs and how many teams are on their heels trying to make it to the playoffs. This is going to be another very close game, but if the Chargers couldn't beat them at home, I think they're going to have even more trouble beating them on the road in the cold of Kansas City. And I think I want to pick Kansas City to win a low-scoring, hard-fought game. The way the Chiefs offense has been playing, it's not been the normal Chiefs offense. Like I said, I think this could end up being very low scoring. I do think the Chargers are playing better coming into this game. I just feel like this is a big game for the Chiefs to win, and usually they win those. Cowboys, Bengals. Man, oh man, this is an interesting game. Cowboys are playing well as of late. The Bengals defense has sucked. Their offense has been playing well as of late. The Bengals just want to win something, even if they don't think they can make the playoffs, just to prove they can still win, I guess. Maybe that's a little bit too mean, but two teams that thought they'd be in the playoffs and two teams that are very much on the outside looking in with very, very slim chances. Cowboys have finally won football games at home. They're going to be at home again in prime time. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Cowboys. I know that the Cowboys defense is playing better, but it really hasn't mattered too much who the defense is. The Bengals have found a way to score points against pretty much everybody this year. And I don't know if the Cowboys offense, even with how bad the Bengals defense is going to be able to keep up. They are playing a backup at quarterback after all. I do think the Cowboys are going to be able to score a little bit, but they're not going to be able to keep up with the Bengals. I think the Bengals get the win this week. Both teams go to 5-8. That will officially eliminate the Cowboys. Now, if the Cowboys win this game, it could be a very different conversation next Tuesday. But I'm going to pick the Bengals to win this game. I also want to say I do think both of these teams have had some bad luck. The Cowboys have had some bad injury luck. Obviously missing Dak hurts. They were missing Micah Parsons, one of the best defensive players in the game. They've been having a lot of injuries on the defensive end. And I think it's hurt the Cowboys season. The Bengals have had some bad officiating luck. Part of the Bengals I don't want to say this season is entirely on the bad luck for Bengals. Some of it is. Some of the close games they've lost. They haven't had anything crazy injuries, but they've had some bad calls. They've had some things go their way. Part of the Bengals' problem is because their defense is so bad, and that's not bad luck. That's just either bad coaching, not enough talent, some mixture of the two. So that's not necessarily bad luck. That's just not being prepared. But Bengals have had some bad luck, and it usually takes some bad luck for you to lose as many close games as the Bengals have. So both of these teams, I think, have had some bad luck and are just one or two bad luck moments away from having a winning record on this season. It's unfortunate, but there's always teams that have that happen to them throughout the course of the year, and these are two of them this year. I would not be surprised to see either of them rebound next year. So here you go. That was the last game. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time this year, I believe I have given a top 5 game to the Thursday night football game, the Sunday night football game, the Monday night football game, and both time slots during the daytime Sunday. So there will be at least one good football game at every time of the week this week in the NFL. So this is definitely a good week to watch. There is some absolute horrific games between bad teams, but there's a lot of good games out there. I highly would recommend you to check out. Only 13 games here in week 14. As you can see, there's 6 teams on their bye week, 5 AFC teams, and only 1 NFC team. And funnily enough, 4 of the current teams in chasing the playoffs in the AFC are not playing this week. So some teams, a chance for some AFC teams to make up some ground or gain ground, whichever way you look at it. Here's a summary on my picks. These ones are correct with what I said, unlike last week with that Cardinals-Vikings game. All of these are the people I believe are going to win their games, even if I don't love the pick all the time. So again, as always, this is my summary page where if you don't have time to listen to the whole thing, come here. You can check out my picks and see where they stand next week. Thank you for coming out, everybody. I hope you enjoyed another episode. I think this one might be my longest NFL episode. We're right around an hour. We'll see how it comes out in editing. Thank you for listening to me and all of my crazy rambling. I appreciate it. I hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. I would ask in the holiday spirit if you can do some things to help me out in the holiday spirit. Like, comment, and subscribe. Those three things are massive. That's the biggest thing you can do for YouTube videos, especially if you like the creator, if you like the content. Commenting, and subscribe. I mean, all three of those things will do so much to help them. The more people that do it, the more it helps me. So please, please, please do those things. There's plenty of things you can talk about in the comments. I love to hear from you guys. I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for taking time out of your week to listen. Stay safe with the colder weather. Stay warm, I guess is what I should say. Peace out.